Hi, this is Sean Wildermuth of Agilitrain. Here we're on part 2 of our 6-part series on consuming OData. Today we're going to talk about jQuery. So let's head over to some code. I've got a simple project here that's a basic ASP.MVC3 project, though you could use any sort of web project you want. And I've got a entity framework model as well as a WCF data service here that is exposing some data that we want to consume using jQuery on our page. Let me just go ahead and view this quickly in the browser, and we can see that this is the standard AtomPub format that we're getting back. Let's go ahead and just write a quick query, because we're going to actually want to do our query directly using the URI syntax. We're not going to be using any specialized libraries in order to do jQuery. We're going to do it really raw near the metal. So I'm going to write a query that you may have done before. I'm going to use a filter to say I want all the games whose the name of the genre equals shooter, and our database is a database of Xbox games, so that makes sense. And I'm going to go ahead and say order by the name of the game, and here we can see we're getting the AtomPub version of our data, so we can equate that we have the right query at this point. Go ahead and close that. We can come back here and we can see we've already got a ready function set up here to be called as soon as the page is finished loading. So in here, first thing is I'm going to just create a query variable for that query we just did. This is the same query we did in the browser. We want to go ahead and use that on our page. Now, because it's in the same web project, we could do that as well if we want. I'm just going to leave the full name on there just for ease. And what the structure of our page is pretty simple. We've got just some sections, including a place to click. It's a little href. It's a little anchor tag that we can click. And so we're going to handle a click event on that. And then we've got two divs, one to show some status, and then finally one to hold the information that we're going to show for our games. Not a whole lot of CSS here. We're doing it pretty quick and dirty, but you should be able to see how you can apply this to what you're doing. So the next thing we want to do is handle that click event. So I'm just going to use a CSS selector to say, go find me the item called load data, and handle the click event. And here I'm just going to use a function handler, or a prototype if you prefer, to say that when someone clicks that load data, this is the data, this is what we're going to actually call. So the first thing I want to do inside the load data, we have our query already set up, is go ahead and show some status. So if you remember down here, we have that status div, so I'm just going to again use a selector to say status text loading games. Make sense? Just going to load some status. And then at that point we're going to use another call that says get JSON. This is a call that's going to do an asynchronous call to some server, in this case our own server, get some data and then pull it back. So I'm just going to pass in the query there and then a callback prototype. And this is actually going to contain the results in the function. It's going to be passed in. So I'm just going to put results as our name there, another begin and end for function, anonymous function there. So now at this point we should be able to actually look at the results. We should be able to make the query, get the results back. But I want to actually show them on the page, so I want to use a little more jQuery magic here and use a function called each. Each is going to be much just like a for each loop in .NET or those sorts of things. It's going to walk through or iterate through a collection. And our results has a single property on it. Again, this is coming back as JSON, and so it's being evaluated into an object. Has a property called D. This is really a wrapper around the entire result set. There's some explanation of why there's a property called D there to kind of wrap it all. I won't get into that because we don't only have limited time. But so I'm going to say, go look at the results inside that D property and call some function every time. And this function is going to take a couple of parameters. It's going to take a iteration number, so what 0, 1, 2, 3, etc., and then the actual item that is being iterated over. So for each item in the collection that is here, which should be the result, our games, this is going to be passed in as our item. So now that we're going through each, let's go ahead and create our data that we want to show. So I'm just going to create it as a simple line, and I'm going to start that with just a div, and I'm just going to use some string concatenation to say item.name. Now it's called .name because it's already been evaluated into a JavaScript object, so that the properties that were being given in the from the data service or the OData feed turn into simple properties here. And I'll say, let's go ahead and show the price as well, so I'll add a colon and then a $sign. And item.price is going to be another property, but this time it's going to be a string that contains the raw number. So we're going to want to do some formatting of it. Luckily, we have parse float. So this is going to parse our item.price into an actual number, and then we can call to fixed to make sure it's a fixed number. And finally, let's go ahead and end our bracket by ending the div. And now that we have the line that we want to represent each one of those, let's go ahead and append it. So I'm going to use another selector to say games, and again I'm looking for something who has ID of games down here. Append, and then just add the line to it. And we'll go ahead and take this string and then parse it into HTML and go ahead and append it to the line. Once we've gone through each of the elements in this let's go ahead and clear out the status. So that once the loading is done. So again, just to walk through it, we have a query that is just a regular OData or data service query, and this could be from really anywhere. When someone clicks that anchor tag, we're going to set the status to say, hey, we're loading something, called getJSON to actually perform the network request to get the JSON back, and then convert it into, evaluate it into an actual JavaScript object. Then we're going to walk through each of the results, each games, build up a div, change the DOM by appending to it, clear our status, and we should be done. So if I have not muffled my fingers at all, so you'll be able to see that loading games. Let's do it one more time so it'll be quick. When we click this, we'll quickly see just under load data, there's going to be a loading games, and then once the loading games is cleared, we can see we have all of our elements that we got from that service. Make sense? That's a very quick run through of how to access an OData feed using jQuery. My name is Sean Wildmuth with Gillitrain, and I hope you join me for part 3.